The first settlement was made by a population called Etruscans. The Etruscans were living between the river Tiber, the river of Rome, and the river Arno, that's the river of Florence. Then later they moved also to other places, they started to sail, but we can say that the Etruscan land is between these two rivers. And the city of Perugia, on top of the hill, was a great place to control the valley of the river Tiber. You came along the river from Rome to here, is the most important communication to the south of Italy. So it was very important to control this place. So the first settlement was built on top of the hill, the city center, and it's surrounded by a wall of 2 miles. A wall built 2,300 years ago. It's one of the most incredible walls we have in Italy. Some parts are still visible, some parts are included in the buildings that were made later. The Etruscans lived here, one of the most important cities, one of the 12 capitals of the Etruscans. Then the Romans arrived from Rome, 200 years before Christ. And Perugia started to turn Roman slowly. There wasn't a fight. The Romans started to live with the Etruscans, and the culture of the Etruscans mixed, got lost a little bit inside the culture of the Romans. The Etruscans were famous in the Roman Empire to be stylists. They were doing good clothes, beautiful jewelry, and the Romans appreciated it very much. The Roman period, as in any other part of Europe, is remembered as one of the period with the highest quality of life in the history, and it finished in the 5th century after Christ with the barbarian invasions. Population from Northern Europe came and they were nomads. They destroyed the Roman culture. It was like going back on time of centuries, the beginning of the Middle Ages. And in the first part of the Middle Ages, the city didn't grow. People were still living inside the Etruscan walls, inside the city, inside the Etruscan walls. And it was a period of wars, diseases, not a good period to live. After the year 1000, things started to change because Perugia became a comune, became independent. The government was very good. They started to build most of the public structure that we see today. The palace of the government, the cathedral, the fountain, the aqueduct, everything built in the second part of the Middle Ages. Most of the things we see today are from that period, between the year 1000 and 1500. So there was the city center, and then the city started to grow in 5 different directions. Perugia is like the hand, you know? And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers that follow the mountain, the slopes of the mountain. And when the city became so big, they had to make a second wall, because in the Middle Ages it was extremely important to stay inside the wall. It was a period of wars. Perugia was fighting against Assisi, against Siena, against Arezzo, and it was a very aggressive city. So they made a second wall that is 5 miles, and everything is inside these 5 miles is city center of Perugia. The city center of Perugia is one of the biggest in Italy. It's really, really big. In the Middle Ages there were 35,000 people living here, and the population was 35,000 until the 60s of last century, the industrial development of Italy, when the ugly part of the city started to be built in the valley, the industrial area, the commercial area. That's not beautiful, honestly, but it's needed, of course, because it's... Perugia is a university city. The university is vital for this city. 40,000 students from Italy and Europe, plus 5,000 more or less every year from overseas, Americans, Australian, Japanese, Chinese, Africans, all here to study Italian language, Italian culture, Italian literature. It's very important for us, the university. It's a basic economical activity. The period of the Middle Ages finished in Italy, in many parts of Italy, with the beginning of the Renaissance. In Perugia, the Renaissance arrived, but not the way it arrived in Florence, for example, because here, after the Middle Ages, the city went under the government of the Vatican, the state of the Vatican, the Church. The period of the Church is remembered as the worst and most difficult period of Perugia, of the city of Perugia. Today we go to Assisi, another world. Perugia suffered a lot for 4 centuries for the Church. The army of the Vatican killed thousands of people here in Perugia, and the place where we are is the demonstration of the power of Perugia. Now it's a very beautiful moment, but it's one of the most dramatic moments of the history of Perugia. So I will explain about this place because it's very, very interesting. In the 1500s, the Vatican put a very high tax on salt. The citizens of Perugia decided to make a riot, a revolution. It's called the War of Salt. Hundreds of people were killed. The Vatican kept the power. And after the war finished, the Pope said, okay, I will do something to demonstrate to the citizens of Perugia that they cannot do anything about against my power. And this fortress is a demonstration of power. This fortress is something that was not made to protect Perugia, but to protect the governors of Perugia from Perugia. Here there are some paintings of how the fortress was before 1861, the unification of Italy. We are inside that one on the right. Okay? This one, the stone bridge and the second fortress don't exist anymore. Consider that the second fortress was more or less where there is your hotel now. The bus parking, the bus station. That part was destroyed by the citizens of Perugia after the unification of Italy, after they finally won against the Vatican. They were free from the Vatican and they destroyed a symbol of the power. So here what happened? Here there is the different periods of construction. There was the medieval city made of little streets, little alleys, squares. There was a church, there was some houses, tower. And here there was the family Baioni living, one of the families that promoted the riots against the family, against the Vatican.
What was the name of the family?
Baioni.
Which pope was that?
Pio III, Paolo III, sorry, Paul III. So there was the city. What the Vatican did in only 3 years, and the architect here was a genius, he just built the fortress on top. Imagine, we are walking inside the streets of the city now. This is the original level of the city. Those are the original houses of the city. These windows are windows of a house. This street, there was a street that was connecting the upper part of Perugia with the lower part of Perugia. The Vatican put a fortress on top. The people who are living here obviously has to leave. This part of the city was destroyed completely. Just 1/4 of the medieval town of Perugia, where people were living, was destroyed or covered with a roof. This place is incredible. Now we will explore some part of it, and I will show you that here people were really living.
In what years was this built?
The middle of the 1500s, about 450 years ago.
1550-ish.
Yeah, 1550. In 3 years. The fortress was looking like this, with the stone bridge and the second fortress. This is how the fortress looks now, because in 1861 Italy became a country. There was the unification of Italy, and the fortress was modified by Perugia, and this area has been closed for many years. It was reopened only in the 70s of last century. Before it was used as a garbage bin. It was full of rubbish because it's a symbol. Perugia wanted to forget this part of the history. Only 40 years ago they decided to make it a monument. Of course it's a good idea, but they wanted to forget about this because it's very dramatic for the people that were living here years ago. So now this is how it looks. There are the gardens here, the viewpoint, the walls of the fortress, and here is the beginning of the main street where we are going now. Okay, let's go to explore it because when you see it, it's...
The classes at the university taught English or Italian?
There are also classes in English, but very